TitleMatchNetwork.com.
What about the other scandal, the Pat and Terry?
Okay, I'm sorry. Just to play up. I mean, even though from your perspective and a lot of people's perspective, there was nothing there real. In a lot of ways, it was a witch hunt. Right. There still was the possibility that Vince might be going to jail.
Yeah.
Was there ever a contingency plan discussed on if Vince does go to jail, this is what's going to happen, this person's going to take over, or this is what we're going to do?
Well, the contingency plan was in place. I mean, obviously, Linda was there. We knew what was going to happen. It was going to be business as usual, as much as it can be. We always used to laugh about. We actually joked about visiting him in prison, and booking. And you had to. You had to make light of it as best you could. But it was to be. I mean, his whole thing was it's going to be business as usual, guys. It has to. He hadn't built this empire to crumble if something happened to him. If he got hit by a bus, his theory was, I want this business to be built in a way that if anything were to happen to me, I hope you miss a step. I hope I had that much influence. But he goes, I want you to pick up and get right back where you were. That's how he built the company. So there was never like, oh my God, if something happens to Vince and Vince goes away to jail, we're you know what? Just close the doors. We're dead now. Or, oh my God, we've got to have somebody else in here. It wasn't that way. It was business as usual. Don't let anybody know that they ever got to us. I'm available. We can communicate. We can still do this and move on. We had all the right people in place. So there was never a, oh my God. The only oh my God is if he went to jail. What a fucked up system we had.
Right.
A lot of that was a crazy thing.
I mean, at the time, Linda was, she wasn't in the locker rooms. And I don't know, how involved, if at all. And I'm assuming probably not much, like in the creative process and whatnot.
No, she wasn't. But
so who do you think would have been the new, boss while Vince was gone? Would it have been you? Would it have been Patterson?
Well, Pat and I were the ones that were running TVs and doing all the house shows anyway when Vince was preparing for the trial. There was a period of time there when Vince had his surgery and couldn't go to TV. Pat and I went, didn't miss a beat. And it wasn't like, okay, Bruce and Pat are in charge now. That was never the case. It was just, okay, Bruce and Pat are here, Vince isn't here. I ran the production meeting and Pat took care of everything else. And we just did it. It wasn't, and especially between me and Pat, there was never this, well, who's in charge? Who's the boss? No, we worked together. We were kind of interchangeable and did whatever needed to get done. So it wasn't who's going to be named the next czar. It wasn't. Vince was the czar.
When the sex scandal took place, were you surprised about all that with Terry and Pat?
I wasn't there. That was during the first time I got fired. So I wasn't there, but from an outsider looking in, as far as Garvin, I don't know. I don't know that I would say I was surprised, but I didn't deal with Terry a lot. Right. So I wasn't around him enough to know one way or another. As far as Pat, I can literally, give you maybe a handful of people that I would leave my kids with without giving it a second thought. And I would leave my kids with Pat Patterson wherever he was, anywhere in the world at any time. And I knew Pat. I love Pat. I just don't think that Pat was capable of any of the things he was accused of. Does Pat like to joke around? Is Pat gay? Does he like to joke around, fuck with people? Yeah. So what? So what's wrong? What's the difference between a straight guy fucking around with some females or a gay guy fucking around with guys? Who the fuck cares? When it all comes down to it, it's like, let him live his life. He's different than me in his preferences. Has he ever hurt me? No. He lives his life. I live my life. So it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. So that, the other one, I can't say, yeah, no, it didn't surprise me. On the Patterson side, it didn't surprise me from the accusation standpoint because it was really easy. Pat's gay, so he must be guilty. You're an unforgiving society that didn't look at the person, didn't know the person. And it's easy to sit back and go, okay, I don't know, so I can accuse them of shit. And it's easy to do from afar.
What are your memories of when Vince went on Donahue? Do you think that was a good PR move for the company? Or do you think he should have just ignored it and let it go away?
The guy... Murray Hodgkins. Is that
Hodges or
Hodges? Murray Hodges or something. I don't know. This was a guy, and I was one of the guys that hired Murray. Okay, and Murray had long hair and had a good look. He was a decent on-air guy, but it was just such a fabricated. You know what? Would I see Pat fucking with him and kidding him? Yes, without a doubt. Would Pat ever make a pass at somebody in the business? Absolutely not. Never. He wouldn't have done it. And this Murray guy, when we got him, once we put him into the arena we wanted to put him into, it was like, oh shit. His audition was a lot better. Ruh-roh. And when we tried to groom him, tried to bring him up to speed, and he just couldn't get there. He was one of those guys, radio voice, great voice, had a good look. But when it came time to put everything together and do what we needed him to do, he just couldn't do it. And then I left, and he was still there. They fired him after I left. So I don't even know, other than I know before I left it was kind of iffy whether he was still going to be around.
And then Barry O came forward as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't there, so it's hard. It's hard to believe. Like I said, could I see guys joking about it? Sure. I mean, a homophobic straight guy being ribbed by a big bad gay guy. Okay. I mean, again, we're adults, and it doesn't matter. You're not sitting there going, putting a gun to somebody's head and go, okay, do this or you're done. I guarantee you that never happened.
Moving on, WWF began their testing program as a result of the steroid trial. Mm-hmm. Compare the creation of that drug testing program to what they were previously doing, as they tested for cocaine and other drugs. Was Vince simply trying to get the heat to go away, or did he seem that this was the way the company had to go in order to survive?
Well, here's what you have to keep in mind. The initial drug testing for cocaine and illegal drugs was just that. Steroids were not illegal at the time. So when the new test came about, it included the testing of steroids, of illegal steroids. So that was the change, the classification of legal and illegal drugs. If a doctor prescribed steroids to you, you were taking steroids, and they were legal at the time, then what are you testing for? And why would that be bad? I mean, is it because it makes somebody's arms bigger than the other guy? Steroids are used to help rebuild, and they're actually a necessary, decent evil. But again, when they made them illegal, then that changed the game.
How did Vince change personally after going through the trial? JJ wrote in his book that it made Vince more arrogant. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Well, you kick the government's ass when you're sitting there and your life's on the line. I think you do a little bit of arrogance to that. They had threatened. They threw everything. I mean, God, they threw everything at him. Sure, he was probably a little more arrogant, but he became a lot more determined to do whatever the hell he wanted to do.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.